Passing by value, passing by reference. What do you think, JavaScripters? When I ask this question to people, they always give me the same answer. They go, oh yeah, everything's passed by value except objects, they're passed by reference. Meaning that if you go inside that function that you pass it into, you can change things around all day long, and that would actually affect the core object itself, because it's a reference to it. And that's a very good way of looking at it when you're first starting out with JavaScript. The problem is it's not true. You need to have a look at this code. So let's have a look at some of this code and kind of just show you how things are passed around. Some of this may look a little bit strange the first time you see it, but all I have here is index and main.js. And let's do this. Okay, so if I had var here saying a string is equal to hello, let's do something else, have var b string equal goodbye, and then I can do var, I'll come back to that one in a second, let's just do this first function. Whoops. And we want to have add things. And the idea about add things, it will take the first string, I'm going to say first word string, and take a second word string as its two parameters, okay, to show you what's actually happening when you pass these through. And then we can return that. First word string, add a little space, maybe the word and the second word string. Let's just run this. So I'm going to say add things. I'm going to say a string, b string. This is probably what you're expecting. It takes this word, maps it to this, and returns both of them. Now, what some people would say is this is passed by value, meaning that the item that's passed into here isn't a reference type, it's just a data property. Okay, so these are being passed in. And if we run this, do it in a slightly different way, maybe we kind of change things around a little bit in the function first. How about we do this? We say a string, actually no, do it this way, first word string is now equal to sub. Right, so what's happening is a string as hello is being passed in as a value. What we're then doing is we're overriding that item here and then popping it back out. So let's just run that. Did that change? Let me just refresh my page. You know what? I don't think that's saved. Let's try that again. Yeah, okay. So the question that you should be thinking is, will this change? What is a string? If I've gone in there and passed this value as hello in, and I've changed it to sub, that's going to remain hello, isn't it? Because this is essentially, think of this as being passed as an item that has a value associated with it, and that's its own copy. Things get a little more interesting when we start looking at arrays, objects, this kind of thing. So let's just expand upon this. Let's do a function called add things. I'm going to call add things array. And this is going to take some array. Let's create a little array up here. I'm going to do var my array is equal to and I like to return the value of this, join them all together. So I'm going to say some array, which is the thing here, join, I'm going to join them with the word and. Oops. Give a bit of space in there. So now we can do add things to array, passing in my array. Okay, kind of what's expected, right? Passing in this simple array here. This is going in there. We're joining the two words together. So far, so good. Let's see what happens when we start going a little further. What happens if you do this? If you do some array, and then, in arrays you can push things. So I'm adding something to the end of the array, and I'm saying curry. Let's see what happens this time. Did that save? I've got to get better at this saving thing, haven't I? Try that. Fish, chips and curry. Now if I set a breakpoint and have a look at what's happening with some array, let's just go and do that again. And let's look inside here. So we have some array, which is fish chips and curry, because we added the word curry to it. So does some array equal my array? What do you think? My array, does this exactly equal some array? Before I press enter, think about that. Okay? They're the same object. So you might be thinking, well, this is passed by reference because it's the same object. If I make changes to this item inside here and make changes, then this is going to change outside of it as well. So I can come out of that function completely. And I know that some array joined is this. So I can look at my array and just check. Yep, that's changed. So far, so good. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you start changing around some of this stuff and do something like this, and you'd say my array is equal to cat. Actually, let's do it this way. Some array is now equal to cat. So what I did is I pushed the word curry onto this. I've then swapped it out completely for the array with a single word cat in it, and then I'm going to try and join it. Okay, so let's just run that. So now what happened is this returned some array. It originally added the word curry onto the end of it, and then it just changed it to cat. Okay, so you'd expect my array to be, what do you think? Cat, right? Because we just changed it, but it doesn't. So this is not really passing things by reference. The way I like to look at it is passing things by item, and these items are actually going to hold references to either unique values, or it's going to be, referencing some object that is perhaps shared. And that's where this can catch you out, because if you think you can pass in an array and start manipulating it, to some extent you can, but you don't really have the full admin rights to kind of override. I can't suddenly, delete this or change this to the word banana or anything like this, because you don't have an ability to change this item that is passed in to that extent. You have access to everything inside of it. You can do things like push and move things around and change all the properties, but you can't change the actual item itself that is passed in. Okay, so that's the code side of things. Let's have a look at the visualization of that. So it's not quite as straightforward, is it? Once you start passing things around, it's not as straightforward as saying things are passed by value or they're passed by reference, because if they really were passed by reference, you could go inside there and change things around and delete it and do anything you wanted with it, because it's the same object, but it is clearly not the same object. And this is the issue. So I think when people talk about things like value and reference, I think it's too wavy hands, it's too high level, and I think it can land you into trouble. It actually got me into trouble a while back. I was passing in an array inside a function, and I was then looping through it, and right at the top of the function I had an empty array, and I was kind of pushing things onto it. I was kind of refactoring an array really, and once I'd got that, I wanted to map that to the original array and overwrite it. I didn't want to change it in the loop itself. I wanted to build something parallel and then swap it out. And it frustrated me because I wasn't able to do it. And I thought, wait a minute. I was looking at this and I was thinking, they're exactly equal. They're the same object. So why can't I change it? And then I realized they're not really passed by reference. And that's the thing. But I don't think it's also helpful when people say on Stack Overflow saying, yes, everything's passed by value in JavaScript. And that's probably technically the most accurate answer, but I don't think that's helpful for new people looking at this, because otherwise, if they think everything's passed by value, they won't understand if you pass something in, you're going to change it inside a function, it'll change it outside it as well. That could be dangerous as well. The way I like to look at things, and it just kind of helps me visualize things, I think of it as passed by item. And then I also would go as far to say that everything that's passed through by item, the objects that are associated inside of it, they have weak credentials. Give an example. Say, for example, I had a music account, like a Google Music account or something like that, and I decided to write down in a text file my admin username and password, and I popped that on a USB stick and I handed it to you. You pop that USB stick in there, you get the username and password, and you log in. You can go into my account and you can delete it, you can change the playlist, and you can completely wipe out the account because you had admin credentials. That would be passing by reference, really, because you're passing an item but holds a reference to something that we're sharing. versus say me popping a Word document onto a USB stick and handing you that. That is passed as an item, but it holds a reference to an actual unique value, which is the Word document, which is your copy. And again, that's in difference to if I gave you non-admin rights to my music catalog. So I would log into my music catalog, create a little user, and give you a username and password that allows you to create playlists and do all these interesting things. I can give that to you in the same respect on a USB stick, plug it in, type in your username credentials. Once you're in there, you can delete songs and this kind of stuff. And if you're doing that while I'm looking at it on my screen, I'm seeing you deleting songs and all this stuff. But you don't have rights to actually delete my account. Okay, so that's the way I think about it. I think things are passed by item, and the objects have weak credentials. They don't have real admin rights to that object, and that's the way I tend to look at this these days. Passing by value, passing by reference, not strictly true. Okay, so that's just my take on things. Anyway, hope that's been a little enlightening. If you've never seen that before, you might have thought you could do that, change an array inside a function, and you can't. Anyway, hopefully it's been relatively interesting. See ya.